I'm so glad that everybody could join us, and for those who join us on the replay, welcome. I know that you enjoy KiddyKeys as much as I do, and I just am so thankful. Oh, Ruth, I'm glad it's going great for you. Good for you. And so today, I don't have a ton to say because I feel like the other women that went before me covered a lot of territory, and I know that you guys have precious little time and energy to spare right now. So I want to be really direct about how I approach this, and I will do my very best to be clear. If I need to send links in the after comments after we shut down to pictures of equipment, I can do that as well. And good to see you, Heidi. And so the first thing I wanted to do is first thing I wanted to say is I basically do everything just like normal. I do a live class. I sit right here and KiddyKeys is here today. Hooray! And do everything right with the children. I log in to the Zoom meeting. All of the parents or older siblings help the littles get their screen set up, and I have it set up so that they don't have to do anything to the screen until the very end. Once we get into the meeting, and I admit them in from the waiting room. For those of you who are aware, that has been an issue I implemented to be just extra secure. It's not mandatory, but I've chosen to do that so that I can make sure that the people that are in the room are the ones that I want to be in the room. And that way, once everybody gets in the room, I just greet them and their sound is on. We talk for a couple minutes. Hi, how are you? How was your week? Just like normal. And then without even telling them, I mute them all from my end so that they can hear what I'm doing. At that point, I take my handy dandy cell phone with my handy dandy playlist and I set it right on the front of my laptop so that it's near the microphone, and I start playing the KiddyKeys songs straight from, just as if it's a class, as if I'm sitting in front of them using this device that I always use normally attached to a Bluetooth speaker, but for this case I set the phone up here. I don't always Bluetooth. Sometimes I do Bluetooth it in, but I'm getting enough feedback saying that they can hear it well enough, and I can actually get it playing too loudly through the Bluetooth speaker. So I backed off equipment-wise and went straight to the phone, trying to keep it super simple. I have a 10-foot, charging cord on my phone so that if I need to, I can put the phone into this mount. I hope you can see that. But it's just a mount that's, I'll see if I can adjust, attached to my music rack, where I can either clip it into that mount or I can just hold my phone and, just hold the phone and say, oh, it's C, D, E, R by the two black keys. And of course my arm isn't in the way because I'm usually using the mount, and then they can see. And if they can't tell from that distance, I can adjust that to their visual pleasure, whatever, so that they can see it well. So I just play my playlist straight from my phone. I do my KiddyKeys right next to the desk here. I keep my handy dandy KiddyKeys bag with all my beautiful equipment that comes with it. And I actually set it up pretty much just as if I were going to the preschool or, having the class out in my studio, and I just have the whole lesson plan in my bag. Honestly, I just went super easy, low tech, didn't want to have to think through a new organizational system. So I'm just kind of going on autopilot with that kind of thing. So then when it comes time in the class for me to say, hey guys, so say I got the Mozart, the page for the Mozart review, right? So I'm like, okay guys, so let's remember some of our fun facts about Mr. Mozart, and I'll hold my thing up, and then I will unmute them so they can still hear each other. They don't know that they were muted, but whatever was going on during the songs in their living room, if mom came in or if the dog started barking, it didn't interrupt our class. So I will unmute it for that section and I'll let them answer. I'll call out, okay, Ella, what's the fun fact you remember? Ilan, what do you remember? Susie, what do you remember? And just go down, through whoever's in the class that day. And then same thing with, like ABCs, I'll hold this up, but then I'll mute everybody when we sing the ABC song or wherever we are in those lesson plans. So essentially I use the mute button just to kind of control any chaos that could be coming through the other end into other people's hearing so that they're not distracted and they can focus on the class. Then when we come to the songs that are on the keyboard, I'll have them, talk with them. Hey, okay, everybody turn on your keyboard. We're going to play our song Beep, Beep, Beep. And we've already reviewed, for example, the song C, D, E are by the Two Black Keys. So everybody, let's find our C and our E, and we'll go, and I'll put the camera back above the keyboard, and they'll be able to beep, 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 and then I can do the screen share if I need to, but usually they can see what I'm doing without that. But if I need to, I can do that. Once we get done with the main lesson plan, if they have musical instruments at home, I encourage them to use that. If you don't, just pretend like you have a shaker, like when you're in your KiddyKeys class, or just try to make it so that nobody feels left out. When we get to the end of the class and wave goodbye, pretty much at that point, I just hit the button and dismiss the kids from the class because, that's the end of the class, and then they don't have to touch the buttons if mom ran off to get a cup of coffee or had to go to a meeting for work in her office, whatever. So the kids don't have to touch the screen. It's pretty basically autopilot. So if you have any questions, I am going to check over in the comments really quickly before I go into technology, because it's just going to be a really brief thing on technology too. So, okay. Good morning. Yeah, Hannah, Heidi, I think we did meet at the Constellation. That was a great summer. Yes, I use Zoom as my format for my groups, and I do the same thing with my piano groups. I use Zoom, and then generally I still actually use the Zoom for my individual piano lessons as well. I don't have very many of those anymore because I got mostly in groups now. How do I get the link to the families? That's a great question, Chris. The first thing I did was I just emailed the kids that are enrolled. And then as I'm thinking toward the future, I'm thinking in order to increase security and sort of monitor who has the room, like if this goes on much longer and we have to kind of think about who paid and who didn't pay, I might do something like change when a payment is received for the next month, that they get the password, the password to the new room information. That's kind of like a long arc. Honestly, I have no idea how long this is going to go on, so I have been trying to think of those eventualities. So as far as tech, I do use earphones because for some reason, and I think it's just that my particular laptop has very low quality speakers and I'm not able to hear the piano sounds and the answers that the students are giving as clearly through the speakers that are built into my laptop. So this seems to be a more efficient way for me to hear. Also, something that was a huge improvement in my lesson qualities was I took this cord, and I'm a little afraid to unplug it, and I really don't know the name of it, so I will take a picture of it. But it's a really quite thick cord, about twice the size of like an iPhone cord, and it has a big end on both sides that you can clip into the side of the laptop and directly into the back of the router. And when I did that, I had a whole bunch of like sound issues, of sounds fading in and out, weak signal, pictures kind of disintegrating and coming back. all of that was resolved with doing this sort of hardwiring it into my router. So that was a big deal. And then using my earphones. So I don't know if any of you are doing this online. I know there are smaller earphones. I just don't have them. And I was trying to be budget friendly and user friendly and easy. So I just used what I had. And I use my phone often to sign in to the labs, and if I need to, but it is easier to use my laptop in some ways. So it just depends on for KiddyKeys, I could do either, and I actually prefer to use the laptop because of the hard wiring instead of using the Wi-Fi on the phone. So honestly, that is like the whole burrito. I really, from the first time I did it with an iPad and an iPhone and a speaker, and I'm dancing around the room, and I just sit here and I pretend like I'm marching when we march, and I just want it to be effective for the kids, and keeping my face closer to the screen seemed to engage them better. They didn't wander off and get as distracted. And there was one other little thing that I keep handy just to keep it fun. And today it happens to be bunny ears. I have a few little things that we just sometimes do just to keep things interesting. And when we're learning the beach bunny song, or when it was close to Easter, I'd pull out my little headbands and funness and keep some things like that lying around in case I ever need to perk up a lesson, which isn't normally the case in KiddyKeys, but that is sometimes. Oh, my hair got a little kooky, sorry. So anyway, just a little bit of funness, and yeah. So any other questions? How do I get the link to the kids' families? It's email presently, and I actually am using the same room and password each week to keep it simple until the end of this month, and then I have to make the next plan. So as we're seeing you right now, that's how the kiddies look at me. Yes, this is it. This is how I do it. And I make big gestures, and I'm all excited and happy, but I don't go back in the room like I used to, just because they're doing it. They're doing it just like that. And when I would walk back, they would walk away from the screen too. It's like they would copy my behavior. So that's a great question, Heidi. How do I still have them complete worksheets during the lessons? I have not been doing worksheets, just to be honest. I was just thinking through that. Again, I talked with Chris about it a few weeks ago and have not dealt with that. And so looking ahead, I was thinking, because honestly, I didn't think it was going to go on this long. That's kind of short-sighted on my part, but it's what happened. So I'm not doing them now. The possibility exists in my mind that I can send it to the parents and have them print it, or that I could mail it to them if I could get myself organized enough, but I'm not sure I want to commit to having to do a mailing every week. So I haven't made my decision, is the honest answer to that question. And if anybody has suggestions about what they're doing that is probably better than mine, please feel free to pop them in the comments. So are there any other questions? I don't want to take up much more time. Honestly, I just feel like it's a super simple setup. I try to keep it as user-friendly as I can for myself, just because I don't want to mess with a bunch of stuff. Yeah, Chris is suggesting to email it to the parents ahead of the class time so that they could do a print if they wanted. I am not using an external microphone at this time, although it is in process. I've purchased a condenser mic. I need to get it. It requires phantom power though, so I'm kind of in that process of upgrading. Do they march in place, or do we let them march around? I tell them to march around, but honestly, it's kind of interesting to me. They seem, as soon as the song is over, they come right back up to the screen without me mentioning it. They seem to just know intuitively what to do, and I think it helped when I'm right here in the screen for them, that they don't stay. Oh, I mean, not to say that there hasn't been a kid that's wandered off and the mom had to bring them back. That definitely happens, but generally they come back. That's not been a problem. So great questions, good ideas. Thank you, Chris, for helping me out with some of those things. And Chris, is there anything else you wanted me to cover or mention? I just wanted to keep it brief as possible so people could ask questions, and I'm glad to answer them. If not, I will sign off. Thank you everyone for joining us in the live as well as in the replay. I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful week. And please feel free to pass this on to other people using KiddyKeys, or post any questions or comments or suggestions that you have. I appreciate all of you and working together and making our music come to the children. All right. So thank you guys. Have a great afternoon. Bye.